Alright, cool. Starting over. So, if you look at your utility skills here, your heal skill, it's down at the bottom of the tooltip. You see Signet Ferocity for a minute. That gives you an extra 100 Ferocity. You have the same thing on your Signet of Fury and your Signet of Might. My skills may be in a different order than everyone else's. I'm not 100% sure. This is the order I like them in. But if you look at that, you've got that Signet Ferocity on every one of your signets there. Don't have it on balance, stance, or banner. That is going to give you an extra 100 Ferocity for each stack, and you can stack that up to 4 times, and it has a minute cooldown on it, so you're pretty much always going to have that. You want to try to keep up 4 stacks of that as much as possible. So going into combat, I will generally use my heal skill first to proc one of those stacks. That'll also give you resistance, which will make it so that you can't be knocked down, which is a good thing to have. And I use that before I get into combat because it has kind of a long cast time. You don't want to be interrupted. And then after that, I will use my Signet of Fury. That will, as you see, it'll fill up my adrenaline all the way. Once I'm in combat, that adrenaline will stay up. And then after that, I will use my Signet of Might. That's why I have these in this order, because I will go 6, 7, 8. And then after that, I will hit number 9 so that I have stability. So, what all these skills do here, obviously your 6 is going to give you Signet Ferocity, extra 100 Ferocity. 7 is going to do the same thing. It's also going to give you an active bonus of 360 Precision and 360 Ferocity. So you're just stacking up power here. Number 8 skill is going to give you another 180 power, and it's going to give you 10 stacks of might for 6 seconds, and then it's also going to make your skills unblockable for 6 seconds. This is a fucking great skill to use, especially before your big burst. So going in, you're going to use 6, 7, 8, 9. Pretty quickly, you're going to want to make sure that you use your 6 skill before you're in combat. All these other skills are instant cast, so you can just bam, bam, bam. Very easy. So going into combat, 6, 7, 8, 9. And what I will do, I don't click my skills, I'm just doing this to show y'all, is I will use my number 2 skill on sword to leap in and start the engagement. And now, as you can see, because I did all that, I pressed the 7 skill, I have full adrenaline. I would have done it a little bit quicker succession, so I would have more adrenaline. You just auto attack a few times to build it up all the way. Your goal is to get it as full as possible, because your F1 skill scales off of how full it is. So if you have it all the way, it's going to do more damage. Your immobilize is going to be longer, and it's also going to give you endurance back, which is your dodge. So opener 6, 7, 8, 9. You're going to use your sword 2 to leap in. And one thing about leap skills I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again, the best way to use leap skills on any damage class is to fall back behind the tag and wait for the tag to be on top of somebody. When the tag is on top of somebody, target that person and use the leap skill to close the gap, get up into combat, and in that way you don't leap way in front of the tag, because that's bad. In front of the tag is lava, you die. So 6, 7, 8, 9, you're going to press your 2 skill, leap in, and then immediately press your F1. Now, as you notice, this has a pretty long cast time. Let it cast. Don't weapon swap, because you'll cancel it. You don't want to do that. That's bad. As you can see, after you use that, you're going to have no adrenaline left. You spent it all. So next skill to use is going to be your number 5 skill. Same thing as your F1. It has a long cast time. Let it go off, but as you can see, it does a shitload of damage right there. You whirl around, you can move. It increases your movement speed. And it does a bunch of damage. But that one skill right there is very high value, because as you can see from that one skill, it filled my adrenaline bar all the way back up. At this point, what I'm going to do, weapon swap. Now I'm in my spear. I'm going to use my spear F1 skill. Be very careful with this skill. It is reflectable. So if you see a reflect wall, if you see a magnetic aura, if you see a reflect bubble, if you see feedback bubble, don't use this on people. Or even better, use it at the ground so that the AoE from it hurts them. So you're going to swap to spear, F1, and at this point you can use your big burst combo. So you're going to have your spear 5. Someone tell me, is this reflectable? I'm not sure.
It's not.
Okay, not reflectable. So your spear 5 is going to be a knockback. It's also going to knock you back a little bit. They all had Aegis, so it didn't do shit right there. It's going to knock you back a little bit, so when you're using this, make sure that you're walking forwards just a little bit. It's going to mitigate how much you get knocked back. So your Spear 5, and you can pretty much just go Spear 5, 4, 3, 2, and that's going to be your burst combo for Spear. You can really use them in any order you want based on what they do. 3 is going to do a daze and immobilize. 2 is going to cause a cripple. It's going to have a little aftershock with it. And then 4 is going to cause a hail of arrows down from above. It has a little bit of a delay to it. So sometimes I like to use this one last and kind of layer it with the next burst. So what I will typically do, I'm just going to do this again so I have my adrenaline back up and I can show you. So 6, 7, 8, 9. F1 on them. And then 5, 2, which I'm clicking so they're not really going where I want them to, and then 4, and then when I hit that 4, that's another big adrenaline giving skill. Now how to hit all those skills correctly, I would have full adrenaline again, and then a weapon swap, and as you can see on weapon swap, it gives you about a half a bar of adrenaline, so you don't always have to be at full before you swap. If you're like halfway on this bar and you swap, that's pretty good. So then you swap in, back to sword, and immediately you're going to use your F1 again, and at this point you're not going to have 5 back up because you just used it, so you're going to use your 4 skill. Your 4 skill is going to give you quickness, and by this point your heal skill is going to be back up, and because that's a long cast time, you want to always use your heal skill after you use that number 4 to make sure that you have that quickness to cast it. So 4 and 6, and that's going to make sure you're not using your heal skill to heal, you're using it to keep that Signet of Ferocity stack up. You want to keep that at I guess it can get up to 5 stacks there, but you want to keep that Signet of Ferocity stack, 5 stacks. You want to keep that as high as you can keep it, because that's going to keep your damage all the way up. So after you swap back to sword, you're going to use that F1 and your 4 and heal skill, like I said, and then you can just use the rest of your sword skills there to get the rest of, alright, I'm going to let them res. You're going to use the rest of your sword skills to just get the rest of that adrenaline back up, and then you're going to weapon swap again. Back to spear, and you're going to use your F1 and spear again because that's going to be up again. And at this point, your 5, 4, and 3 will be on cooldown, and you'll only have your 2 available. So you're going to use your 2, get as much as you can out of that. It's only going to give you a little bit of adrenaline. At this point, your 7 will be ready again. Make sure that you use your 7 when you're in spear after you have used your F1 and these skills are on cooldown, because that's going to refill your adrenaline bar to where you can swap back to sword and do your combo again. And at this point, you're back to the beginning where you use your Whirling Axe to proc adrenaline, and you can swap back to spear and do the same combo, F1, and you have your big burst available again. As you can see, it just ruins people. So yeah, that's really it. It's pretty simple. I encourage everybody to come practice this, probably one at a time. If we could get some more healers, maybe, because don't do more than one at a time, because you're just gonna absolutely destroy people. And yes, Zark, please, because you rock on this class. What's up?
So although this is core warrior, you want to treat the signets as basically your spec gimmick, for lack of a better term. So you can pre-stack healing signet to 3 stacks before you ever reach combat, which is what I typically do. So it lasts a minute long. You lose all stacks when you mount up though, but it's pretty easy to start every fight with 5 stacks if you're using healing signet on cooldown before combat. That's 3 stacks. Just using it every 20 seconds before combat. And then use the other 2 signets as you're entering combat, as Peaks mentioned. So it's very easy to start combat with 5 stacks. The other thing is that we run Hydromancy, Sigil of Hydromancy on sword. So ideally you want to start your rotation on spear and only switch to sword when we're actually clumped up for you to get full value off that Sigil of Hydromancy.
Okay, I like that.
As me and Kai were mentioning earlier, Dual Strike gives you quickness, which will make your next cast faster. So if you were able to prep 5 stacks of your Signet of Ferocity, you don't really need to use Healing Signet in combat. You can just use Fury and Might, and then use the quickness off a Dual Strike to make Whirling Strike or Flurry faster, since those have pretty lengthy cast times. When you're ranged, you want to stick to Spear. When we're clumped up, you're going to want to cycle through Spear and the Sword Axe. Try to get, press all your buttons and then rotate through them. Warrior has a really quick weapon swap. I think it's like 5 seconds or something like that.
Yep.
Yes, Kai confirmed that it's 5 seconds. So when we're clumped up, you really want to be swapping between both weapon sets and pressing all your buttons for max damage.
Yeah, I've found that swapping weapons off the weapon swap cooldown is a pretty common thing.
Yeah, that's about all the tips I had.
Sweet. Thank you, Zark. Yeah, listen to Zark. If you looked at the logs from yesterday, that last fight we did, he did 3.1 million damage on the core warrior, and it was like 1 million more than second place. So
Holy shit.
I typically don't like glaze people like that, but that was, I looked at that after and I'm like, God damn. But yeah, good point. So yeah, definitely just pump that healing skill out when we're running around.